Sharon, when we move, my parents are moving in with us. You're going to take care of them, so prepare yourself. If you don't like it, divorce is an option. It's either taking care of them or divorce. Your choice.
It was the day we were moving into our brand new condo in Chicago. While I was getting things ready, my husband, Arthur, dropped this on me. I checked the time on my phone, trying to hide my shock. His father, Brian, his brother, Terry, and Terry's wife, Kate, were coming over in 3 hours to help us move. As for Arthur's mother, Madison, she was standing next to him with a smug smile on her face.
It's your fault, Sharon. You've been relying on Arthur for everything. If you're really part of this family, then start acting like it. And if you can't do that, you can't complain if he divorces you.
I never agreed to any of this. They made this decision on their own without even talking to me. Normally, this would be the kind of situation where I'd be justified in yelling, but I kept calm and said,
"Oh, Madison, you were planning to live with us? But Arthur and I have been divorced for a month now."
Madison's smile instantly vanished. Arthur looked confused, as if a bunch of question marks had just appeared over his head. Neither of them seemed to get it, but I knew everything. "Arthur, Madison, you see, I'll make sure you regret this." After a moment of silence, Arthur snapped out of it and turned to Madison.
Mom, don't let her fool you. There's no way we're divorced. I just told her to either take care of my parents or get divorced. We haven't signed anything. She's just being a dumb wife with no common sense.
Exactly, Sharon. Stop joking around. We're giving you a chance here. Even though you've been such a failure, we're trusting you with this huge responsibility of taking care of your husband's parents.
I sighed heavily at their usual attitude. I've seen this too many times since we got married. They were the ones who insisted I become a stay-at-home wife. Nonetheless, they never missed a chance to call me a failure or a leech.
"I already told you, I'm not taking care of anyone. And just to make it clear, Arthur and I are already divorced."
They had always underestimated me. Thus, seeing me push back like this seemed to catch them off guard. For a moment, they looked a bit shaken, but they quickly recovered and started throwing insults again.
Hey Sharon, do you even realize how crazy you sound? When did we stop being married?
Exactly. You have no proof. Nothing has been officially processed through the government. What are you even talking about?
Of course, I didn't expect them to believe me just from saying it. Then, I pulled out a document.
What's this? A divorce decree?
They both stared at it, their eyes darting back and forth. This document proved that Arthur and I were no longer married.
Madison, Arthur had been hiding a signed divorce paper. I found it and filed it without him knowing. Everything is finalized.
Oh boy, Arthur, you really went through with this? You hid a divorce paper? Why didn't you tell me? Anyway, Sharon, how did you know he was hiding it?
I'll explain that later. Everything in its time.
They never expected someone as quiet as me to take such action. They couldn't hide their shock, but with the family registry document presented to them, they had no choice but to believe it. Suddenly, Madison turned to Arthur and said, her tone got a bit harsher, clearly upset that she hadn't known about the hidden document.
Why did you hide it? You've made things more complicated.
Arthur hesitated for a moment, but then, surprisingly, admitted it easily.
Why? I was preparing so I could divorce her at any time. When I talked about divorce, it wasn't just a threat. Sharon had been pushing back too much, and I was ready to go through with it. I'm sorry for not telling you.
I believe he was telling the truth. He had been planning for a divorce. Still, he was lying. What he wasn't admitting was that he had planned on divorcing me all along, regardless of whether I pushed back or not. If I expose that lie, everything will turn in my favor. I'll make sure he's cornered. As I thought about this, I noticed Madison had a different concern on her mind.
But Sharon, you've been a stay-at-home wife all this time. How do you plan to live on your own all of a sudden?
There's no need to worry about that. Because...
With that, I turned on a banking app on my phone. As I tapped the pages, both of their eyes widened in shock.
I stopped being a stay-at-home wife a long time ago. A friend of mine and I co-own an online business. Thankfully, it's been far more successful than we expected.
As they stared at the digital bank statements, I could see the cold sweat forming on their faces. The reason was simple. My monthly income far exceeded Arthur's. I had more than enough savings to live independently from him.
Well, it's true that you could live on your own with this kind of money. But something about these bank statements are bothering me. Don't you think the number of withdrawals and the amounts seem excessive? Were you wasting money?
I couldn't help but smirk. There was still a lot I hadn't told Arthur yet. It was time to reveal more.
Most of those withdrawals were made by Arthur.
Arthur began sweating even more. He gave me a desperate look, silently pleading with me.
Don't say anything further.
Of course, I didn't care.
What? What do you mean?
I mean, Arthur has been using my money without my permission. And, by the way, I'm the one who bought this condo.
You've got to be kidding me. Arthur told me he paid for it himself for my sake.
Sorry to break it to you, but that's a lie. The one lying here is Arthur. If you look at this document, it will all be clear.
They both stared at the condo purchase contract I handed them. Madison was unable to hide her shock, and then muttered.
Oh, right. It's in your name, Sharon.
Madison couldn't deny it after seeing that. Nevertheless, she still seemed to want to believe in her son.
Even so, it's hard to believe. You know, it just doesn't seem possible that you paid for all of this yourself. Plus, Arthur is a top executive at a big company. He wouldn't need to use your money.
It's true that Arthur graduated from a top university and got into a major corporation. He was highly successful, and his salary was higher than most people his age. I can't deny the fact I was able to stay at home thanks to him. Even so, I had to reveal something that would shock Madison.
It seems you didn't know, but Arthur resigned from his job a few months ago. He doesn't have any income.
Madison froze, her eyes wide open. It wasn't surprising. Her pride and joy, her elite son, had quit his job and become unemployed.
That can't be true. No way.
Unfortunately, it is true. Arthur was about to be demoted, so he quit instead. I'll explain why later. Oh, by the way, when he mentioned divorce, it was partly to keep his job resignation a secret.
It seemed Arthur wanted to keep his resignation hidden until he found another job, probably because of his pride. Because of that, Madison didn't know anything and believed he was still supporting me. That's why she joined Arthur in calling me a leech. As I'd shown all the proof and revealed the truth, the tables had turned. Madison was looking uncomfortable and then said to me,
I'm sorry, Sharon. I had no idea and said such terrible things to you.
Not knowing the truth doesn't justify mistreating your daughter-in-law. Therefore, I wasn't planning on forgiving her easily, but if Madison was willing to reflect on her actions, maybe there was some hope for her. Meanwhile, Arthur showed no sign of remorse.
Mom, why are you apologizing? Yeah, I quit my job. But you know, I've worked hard all these years, so I'm allowed a break, right? And anyway, her money is my money too. I can spend it however I want.
I let out a long sigh at his ridiculous reasoning. Does he even realize what he's saying?
So, you're not going to take responsibility for your actions? Fine. Then I'll just let Dad, Terry, and Kate know everything.
All right, go ahead, try it. Like anyone would believe a word you say.
As he said that, he shot a sharp look at Madison. Arthur was silently pressuring her.
Don't say anything.
Why is he acting so confident? Because in front of his dad and his brother's family, he always plays the perfect husband. He probably thinks they'll side with him. However, his plan is about to backfire, because I've already taken care of that. I heard footsteps coming down from upstairs. They were quiet, but the atmosphere felt heavy.
Thanks for your patience.
3 people appeared in the room. Arthur was speechless when he saw them.
What the heck? Why are you guys here now? You all weren't supposed to be here for another 3 hours to help with the move. It's way too early.
It wasn't surprising that he was shocked. The people who entered were his father Brian, his brother Terry, and his sister-in-law Kate.
Sorry, but we heard everything that's been said.
Arthur looked confused. Terry stepped forward with a furious expression.
Yeah, just like Dad said, I heard it all. How you've been tormenting Sharon and everything you just said here.
Wait a sec. Even if you guys were upstairs, there's no way you could have heard our whole conversation. Stop joking around.
Arthur tried to laugh it off. Then, I pointed the screen of my phone, which had been packed in a box, right at him. His face turned pale.
Actually, when I set it down earlier, I switched to a video call. So, everything that was said here has been heard loud and clear.
When he told me earlier that
It's either taking care of my parents or divorce.
I had checked the time on my phone in disbelief, but right after that, I set my plan in motion. Behind me, Brian and Terry were turning flushed with anger, while Kate looked shocked and pale.
Arthur, what have you done? Not only did you harass Sharon, but you also spent her money. Do you even realize what you've done?
Hey man, I'm disappointed in you. I always looked up to you, thinking you were smart and kind. But it was all a lie. Apologize to Sharon right now.
Faced with the harsh words from his father and brother, Arthur hung his head. He had no comeback now that it was all out in the open, how he had mistreated me and used my money without permission. With tears in his eyes, he finally began to speak little by little.
I'm sorry, everyone. I was mentally cornered. Work was overwhelming. And to make it worse, the relationships with my coworkers were terrible. They were jealous of me for being an elite, so they teamed up with my boss to try and transfer me.
His weak demeanor, something I'd never seen before, left his parents and Terry looking confused.
Besides, while I was suffering at work, Sharon was just lounging around as a stay-at-home wife, and that made me angry. But now I see I was wrong. I should have just talked to Sharon about it honestly. I wasn't in my right mind back then.
Man, no kidding. We get that work was tough, but taking it out on Sharon, who was taking care of the house every day for you, was wrong. And you too, Madison. Teaming up with Arthur to mistreat Sharon. Don't pull this underhanded nonsense.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I'll apologize as many times as it takes for what I've done. I'll pay back the money I spent too. And I'm grateful to both of you, Mom and Dad, for all you've done to raise me. That's why I suggested we all live together.
Sharon, my dear, I'm so sorry.
Terry and Brian also apologized. Arthur was looking down, with tears in his eyes. Normally, this would be the point where reconciliation happens and the story ends. However, since I knew the whole truth, all I saw was a cheap act. I couldn't take it anymore. As I suddenly started shaking with laughter, Arthur, his parents, and Terry all looked up in shock.
Sharon, what's so funny?
Because all of you are being completely fooled. You guys really think Arthur's genuinely apologizing? He's not. He's laughing inside, thinking he successfully covered up his secrets.
I hadn't missed it, the slight smirk Arthur gave while looking down. He was using his tears to mask it, showing off his acting skills.
Secrets? What do you mean by that? Sharon, can you explain?
Well, the truth is, Arthur wasn't treating me poorly just because of work stress. It was because he was cheating on me.
I made sure to say it with a smug smile. The room's focus immediately shifted to Arthur. His eyes darted around nervously.
I started noticing things were off. Sure, I knew he worked long hours, but one day, he started coming home even later. Suddenly, there were all these late-night meetings and unexpected business trips. When I got suspicious, I stumbled upon the truth.
Arthur tried to avoid everyone's gaze and was visibly sweating.
He was trying to push me into a divorce so he could remarry his affair partner.
You mean he was pressuring you into a divorce? Oh, my. Arthur, you.
Brian glared at Arthur, who took a step back. Despite the pressure, Arthur desperately denied the affair.
That's not true. I was working from morning till night, surrounded by those awful coworkers. I had no time to be cheating.
Okay, now, you're going to say you didn't have time, right? Sorry to break it to you, but I've got solid evidence. Just wait a second.
I calmly powered up my laptop, which I had prepared in advance.
Take a look at this.
I said, showing the screen to Arthur. As he stared at the dates and videos, his panic grew.
Hold on, these are recordings of the kitchen, the living room, even my room. Who set up hidden cameras? This is an invasion of privacy.
Who set up the cameras? That would be me, of course. Sorry about invading your privacy. I needed to find out what you were really spending my money on. That's how I found out about the hidden divorce papers and the affair.
Everyone in the room was visibly shaken by how thoroughly I had prepared for this. Arthur frantically tried to close the laptop, but I used all my strength to keep it open. Terry's wife, Kate, mouthed,
"Please, stop it."
She clearly understood what I was about to do next. The timing was perfect. It was time to push Arthur even further into a corner. I played a different video. Arthur's parents and Terry stared at the screen, stunned.
What is this?
The video showed Arthur in his room, intimately involved with Kate. It captured everything, every touch, every moment. With a grim look, Brian glared at both Arthur and Kate, while Terry simply couldn't move to be paralyzed with shock. His eyes, however, were fixed sharply on Arthur. A few seconds later, with his anger boiling over, Terry rushed at Arthur.
Arthur. What the heck is this?
He grabbed Arthur by the collar, shaking him violently. Arthur struggled to free himself. Terry's fury was clear in his eyes. Both Arthur and Kate were trembling.
This is fake. Sharon must have doctored this video to set me up. With today's technology, anyone can edit footage like this, right?
Then why is Kate shaking so much?
I have nothing to do with Kate. You're all jumping to conclusions and making a big deal out of nothing.
I shook my head, ready to explain.
Arthur, it's too late for excuses. After I found out about the affair, I already spoke with Kate.
Listen, Terry. I didn't mean for it to happen. Arthur came onto me, and before I knew it, things went too far.
Finally, Kate collapsed to the floor and cried out. Her crying had a hint of madness, and it left everyone feeling uncomfortable. In fact, I understood where that madness was coming from. Kate had her own situation, but I chose not to reveal it. Suddenly, Brian's voice thundered through the room.
Arthur. How could you deceive us like this? With Kate, no less. You disgust me.
He grabbed Arthur by the collar, raised his fist. Arthur delivered a powerful punch to his face, sending him crashing to the floor. Brian, who was usually calm and never raised a hand in anger, stood over him with a furious expression. Arthur remained silent, staring at the floor.
I don't want to see your face again. Get out of here, right now.
Deep down, Brian didn't want to throw him out. He wanted Arthur to acknowledge his wrongdoing and offer a sincere apology. Even though he was angry, the calmness in his words showed the love he still had for Arthur. Nevertheless, Arthur had betrayed that love in the worst possible way.
Yeah, I cheated, but that's because it's Sharon's fault. She stayed home as a housewife, stopped taking care of herself, and let herself go. Her skin's rough. She's aging, and I just can't see her as a woman anymore. On top of that, her cooking's nothing special. I've wanted to get rid of her for a long time.
Arthur, is that really how you feel? Do you have no appreciation for Sharon?
None at all. It's a wife's job to serve her husband. Sharon should be grateful she even got to marry me.
Terry tried to grab Arthur again, but he dodged quickly.
Terry, you're no better. Unlike me, you've had an easy life, and marrying someone like Kate, that's a luxury you don't deserve. She's smart and beautiful, way out of your league. Kate deserves someone like me, someone intelligent and elite. You know it's true.
What did you just say? You're no brother of mine.
Terry lost control and lunged for a chair, ready to strike Arthur.
Terry, stop!
I shouted, managing to restrain Terry just in time, with help from Brian and Madison. Arthur, watching this unfold, continued to sneer at Terry.
See? Without Dad and Mom, you can't even keep your cool. No wonder your wife strayed, you know?
Before Terry could react, I stepped up to Arthur. There, I gave him one final, serious warning.
Arthur, enough. Acknowledge your mistakes and apologize now, or you're going to regret it.
I'll say this up front, this was not a threat. I just wanted him to reflect on his actions and avoid making the same mistakes in the future. It was the last bit of kindness I could offer him, but he rejected even that.
I'm not going to regret anything. I'm out of here and I won't be relying on any of you. As long as I have Kate, that's all I need.
With that, Arthur forcibly dragged Kate out with him. Brian got furious and tried to chase after them, but I quickly stopped him. Nothing we said would get through to Arthur at that point. Despite their exhaustion, my in-laws and Terry apologized to me.
Sharon, once again, we're so sorry. We can't believe how awful Arthur turned out to be. We don't even know how to apologize.
I should have come to you earlier instead of handling things indirectly. The only thing I ask of you all now is to go on with your lives as usual.
But
Actually, I'm grateful that you guys have been on my side through this. Please, don't worry. I've already taken the necessary steps, and Arthur is definitely going to face the consequences.
After saying that, I shared more details with them. Their shock was evident. It was probably the most stunned they'd been all day. As I've said earlier, I knew everything. I also knew that Arthur would soon spiral into his own downfall. That day came sooner than expected. After finishing up some work, I checked my phone and saw that I had dozens of missed calls from my ex-husband, Arthur. I ignored them at first, but his persistence forced me to pick up.
Hello? What do you want from your ex-wife?
I answered with sarcasm, but Arthur's voice was filled with desperation.
Sharon finally answered. It's an emergency. Kate's gone. I can't reach her by phone or message. You know anything?
So you finally noticed, huh? But if she just left, don't you have any idea where she might be? Why not go find her yourself?
That's the thing. I've got no money left. Kate took everything I had and ran.
Oh, looks like you got played. I figured this would happen, though. You see, Kate didn't care about you. What she loved was your money, the money of an elite like you. The affair? That was part of her plan.
You think she was just after my money? Don't be ridiculous. Kate always told me she couldn't imagine remarrying anyone but me. I'm not buying your lies.
Arthur was furious at the suggestion that his beloved mistress had deceived him. For me, whether he believed me or not didn't matter. I was only stating the facts, and I had proof.
When I spoke to Kate, it was the first time she found out you were unemployed. She only came to help with the move to confirm whether it was true. My word wasn't enough for her, she had to see it for herself.
Arthur stayed silent, listening as I continued.
She wasn't shaking that day because I had proof of the affair. She was shaking because she realized you really had quit your job. At first, she seriously considered remarrying you, but once she knew you were unemployed, she decided to take all your money and disappear. And let's not forget, most of that money was stolen from me.
What do you know? There's no way she was setting me up.
Oh, really? Still don't believe me? I'm about to send you something interesting. Hold on.
I sent a series of files to Arthur's messaging app. I wanted him to learn about the parts of Kate's life he never knew. Within a minute, He had read through everything. On the other end of the line, I could hear him trembling as he processed the information.
Kate wasn't just involved with you and Terry. She had multiple relationships with other men, all of them well off. She collected brand name items to match their status, but only to get them to buy her expensive gifts. I found out about all this because I had investigated her.
After sending him the investigation report, I followed up with several photos. Those are photos of Kate going on dates with other men in the downtown area. Arthur was overwhelmed and started sobbing in shock. With the evidence laid out in front of him, he couldn't argue anymore.
So I fell in love with someone like that. I was nothing more than her ADM.
By the way, you were ranked the lowest, she said. Oh boy, did you really think she was going to marry you? Honestly, it's pathetic.
Arthur had cheated on me, but he was devastated to learn that Kate had been deceiving him in the same way. Suddenly, his tone turned angry.
Sharon, if you knew this, why didn't you tell me? I've been screwed over from every angle because of this.
Why would I owe you that? You didn't even admit to cheating. You laughed at your family and me for being deceived, didn't you? Still, I warned you. I told you to own up to your mistakes and apologize right then and there. I told you you'd regret it if you didn't. But you ignored me, and now you're getting upset?
Hey girl, I was wrong. I see that now. You're the only one for me. Please, let's start over. Look, I don't have a job, and I'm broke. I'll do anything. Just forgive me.
That's not my problem. You said yourself that Kate was all you needed, right? You didn't just fail to help me, you completely disregarded my existence. And now, you expect me to bail you out when it's convenient for you? I know your apology isn't genuine.
No kidding. Believe me, please.
I can see right through you. The real reason you want to get back together is that you've run out of people to rely on. Your family has cut ties with you, and word has spread among your relatives. Your dad even called me, saying, no matter what, don't help Arthur. Not that I planned on forgiving you anyway. I'm just here to watch you fall.
With that, I hung up the phone and blocked his number. Arthur ended up losing his home and desperately begged Brian for help again, but he was turned away. With nowhere to go, he became homeless and couldn't find another job, truly sinking into the depths of despair. Meanwhile, Kate was arrested. She had stolen money from several men, and they reported her. Naturally, Terry divorced her and even sued for damages. Even after her release, she'll be struggling under the weight of that debt. As for Arthur's mother Madison, she apologized to me once, but then Brian kicked her out as well. He has a zero-tolerance policy for lies and harassment, and he was furious when he found out that Madison had repeatedly harassed me. On top of that, it was also revealed that she had been neglecting household chores and using the money Brian earned to go out with other men. Having been a stay-at-home wife for so many years, she struggled to find work and ended up falling apart. As for me, I moved into the condo I bought and invited my parents to live with me. The reason I bought the new place was that I wanted to repay them for raising me so well. For now, I'm focusing on my work and looking forward to new beginnings.